at how we're going to come up with a bond, debt instrument, call it the typical debt innovation bond, and see how we can raise this bond. And I think we'll be working on that for some time now. And we believe sometime early next year, we should be able to float these bonds and have investors pool funds together in Africa and give long-term funding to accelerators. In my time, sometime, I think 2 to 3 months ago, I had some session with a couple of the first cohort of the Timbuktu team, involved in health tech innovation in Rwanda, and it was quite disheartening. You see the kind of money these people are looking for. So these guys are going into bootstrapping and they're putting their funds, and they have somebody looking for $100,000, and yet if the bank says they give you 17–18%, it becomes very non-attractive to them. So we just want to see how we can help them, and as a bank, we're putting these debt instruments to see how we can support them and bring long-term financing to help do this and help them grow.
Wonderful, exciting stuff. I've been told we've got 10 minutes left, so this is going to be badly around. So Laura, as you know, the African VC market is still relatively immature, with average returns and exits continue to be challenging in the continent. So how is the acceleration fund going to address some of these challenges in terms of providing opportunities for early exits and also early liquidity?
That's a very good question, especially, I'm sure all the investors in the room have, we all say cash is king, we all want money back. With VC and especially early stage investing, we tend to find that the investment philosophy needs to incorporate, or we need to start thinking about exits from the outset. So, and this is from the point of coming into a company, developing the company, making them ready for follow-on investment, because that is how the exit will happen. Making them, enhancing their governance, enhancing their business plan, making them more commercial, making them more viable. That is essentially how we could enhance the business to be able to take it to the next stage of exits. And the role of the fund, I'll say, is twofold. So one, the support in accelerating businesses and enhancing them to the next stage, making them more commercially viable to be able to get follow-on investments and consequently get their exit. But also the accelerator fund has both a catalytics capital set, with 70% of the fund going to be devoted to being allocated to a first loss track. So the idea behind that is that will serve as catalytic capital to get other investors who want to come on board also who are more bullish on some businesses, and also still maintain the commercial capital side with about 30%, and to be able to catalyze this with clear balance out of the investors, etc. And that is how essentially we'll be able to get the liquidity back for investors. So the goal of the fund is to essentially for us to demonstrate that we can achieve impact, we can achieve liquidity, get solid returns, maintain returns, and essentially ensure that this investment can also be actually works and actually comes out. So yeah, that's the goal, and hopefully we will be able to demonstrate liquidity, especially in the definitely. You actually see quite a bit in the African continent, with a lot of fund managers coming on board, providing secondaries. And this wasn't there a couple of years ago. We're finding investors more sophisticated in understanding of secondaries, being bullish even on early stage. So that is also another possible avenue that we can also potentially look to
as you know, geopolitical shifts have resulted in a decrease in capital, and unfortunately, historically, African ventures have been highly dependent on international finance. So how is the African Results Fund going to help us leverage domestic sources of capital, particularly in terms of private investment capital, to drive innovation in the continent?
Thanks, Nazim. As we design and set up the fund, we very conscious of the unification factor. We also very conscious of the need for this to be sustained in the long term. So what we've joint working we've come up with a evergreen fund, which essentially means that it doesn't have an end date. Also, those mechanisms to ensure that the capital is patient enough for the impact and for the growth that we expect to see in the ventures investing or build out. And also in attracting LPs into the fund, we're very conscious of those LPs having an understanding that while this is a commercial and commercially viable investment that will give returns, there's also an impact angle. And we need to get them to sign on to both the commercial, there needs to be alignment essentially between the commercial returns and the impact angle. And our sense is we don't need too many, but we just need committed few. And that committed few from the continent, that is, we think we can scale this on.
Excellent. I hope there's a few high net worth individuals in the house. Henry, over to you. In terms of innovation bonds, how do you think they can also provide a further opportunity to tap into unrealized sources of domestic capital in the continent?
I think for us, this is something that African businessmen should please invest in Africa. Because the fact remains that a lot of businessmen, they, just like VCs, just want to get funds out. And I said, if you have the mindset of an entrepreneur, entrepreneurs are different because they have impact at the end of their commercial based endeavor. So businessmen are different. So for us, we see if we are able to raise these bonds, business instruments, the opportunity that we have, I can imagine the way M-Pesa started. M-Pesa just started as somebody trying to meet a need of people sending money from the urban area to the rural area and see what M-Pesa is today. So this is what the capability of Africa can do. So our African businessmen, the opportunities are huge. We just have to have, like I said, the patient capital and the funds are available. Innovation is in Africa. I keep on thanking God that we are in Africa because a lot of things are yet to be discovered in Africa. One of them, you go to Harvard Business School today, they are talking about investment. It's an African innovation. It started in Africa and is domiciled in Africa. It's now going into the business school. Case studies in business schools are all over the world. So there are lots of those things coming up in Africa. If we can just be patient, believe in our people, invest in them, and I'm telling you the opportunities that are humongous. Please, African businessmen, this is a current call. We need you to believe in our people. We need you to trust in what we are doing. Africa is the third rock of innovation. Thank you.
Thank you very much. That brings us to the end of our panel. And I'd like us to give us a big round to our panelists, Clara, Bayo, and Henry, for your contributions. Ladies and gentlemen. And we heard it. The opportunities are huge. The time is now. We need to believe in ourselves. We need to create African solutions for Africans' problems. Timbuktu aims to do that, and working together, we believe we can truly create a sustainable future that fundamentally resets the game in terms of Africa's global competitiveness. So we invite you all to join us, work with us. Together, we can do more. Thank you.
Thank you so much for an extraordinary conversation, something to keep us all on our toes and to keep us thinking, and to use this very unique opportunity to drive the agenda forward.
Thank you so much. A round of applause for our panelists. And thank you so much, Anita. So, as our panelists go down, allow me just to acknowledge the presence of someone who is not just a leader, but more or less an archangel of African innovation, a visionary and guiding force for the continent's future, where creativity meets impact and technology becomes transformational. Ladies and gentlemen, the person I am speaking of is Assistant Secretary General, Director, and also the Director of the Bureau for Africa for UNDP, Ahuna Ezeakonwa. Please give a round of applause. She'll have an opportunity to address us a little later. Anita, back to you.
I'm right here. Thank you so much, and you're absolutely welcome to the woman that we like to call our big sister and our mother, pushing the agenda forward on all our behalves. And ladies and gentlemen, it is now ready. We're now ready for the welcome address by the UN Resident Coordinator right here in Kenya. Dr. Stephen Jackson provides strategic leadership to the United Nations system in advancing Kenya's sustainable development agenda under the UN Cooperation Framework. With extensive work, of course, and years of experience in peace building, governance, and international development across Africa, Asia, and the Middle East, Dr. Jackson has been a driving force in fostering partnerships between governments, development agencies, and the private sector. His leadership continues to promote inclusive growth, innovation, and resilience in support of Kenya's Vision 2030 and the Sustainable Development Goals. Ladies and gentlemen, it gives me great pleasure to bring to the podium none other than the UN Resident Coordinator in Kenya, Dr. Stephen Jackson.
Anita, I can't possibly live up to the living like that now, can I? I can only live down from there. What an extraordinary room. I have to tell you, this is the first time in a very long time that I have seen a conference room to filled with this much energy, enthusiasm, and innovation. You can probably readily imagine the kinds of meetings that regularly take place in a room like this, and they don't have anything like the level of energy, creativity, engagement, enthusiasm, ideas literally bubbling up. So it's a real thrill to be here. Your Excellency, Vice President Austin Badjo, Excellency, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, good morning, and let me add my words of welcome to all of you to this 10th AFRILABS annual gathering here at the United Nations office in Nairobi. And as President Coordinator of Kenya, it's a real pleasure to be part of hosting you in this space where ideas, innovation, and partnerships come together. You know, this year's theme, Africa's Innovation Future, Policy, Partnerships, Progress, couldn't be more timely. Across this great continent, we're seeing an extraordinary upsurge of talent and creativity, and it's really alive in this room. We're seeing it in climate smart agriculture, we're seeing it in green technology, we're seeing it in artificial intelligence, in digital finance, in youth-led entrepreneurship and enterprises that are together redefining what is possible. Redefining what is possible, yeah, for this great continent. But for me, more importantly, redefining what is possible for the world. Because here comes the controversial bit. You may, if you read the news, and I bet you won't do, you may have noticed a certain luxury court closing of mines in the part of the world from which I come. Closing of mines and retreat, certainly in North America, that's on the front pages everywhere, but also in Western Europe. A retreat behind walls, behind barriers, behind towers, a retreat from cooperation, a retreat from collaboration. So much so so that when I was home in Ireland last year, I got asked by quite a senior official what my advice would be to deal with a deglobalizing world. And friends, I was really stuck. It's not often an Irishman's asked for words. But I eventually managed to say, what do you mean, a deglobalizing world? I mean, maybe bits of the global north are flirting with deglobalization, but global cooperation continues apace. And it continues apace in Africa and from Africa. It continues apace in many other parts of what we used euphemistically to call the global south. So the notion of this retreat, to me, is one more instance of a kind of northern myopia. And it's a myopia that is not shared on this great continent. This is not a continent that is retreating behind barriers, or walls, or towers. It's not a continent that is shirking its responsibilities, or closing its mind, or closing its spirit. And having all of you gathered here today in this otherwise not always very naive chamber is a real testament to that. It's a testament that I see, as you say, in the room online, I see ministers, I see investors, I see development partners, I see academia, but most of all, I see innovators. That powerfully signals to me that as Europe and North America may be watching this century, you say reconsidering, Africa is rising. And Africa is rising very fast. Seeing you signals the incredible strength of African innovation. And it signals the kind of collaboration that we need to maximize the innovation agenda for the next decade. Now, forgive me, now I do the partisan bit, because I want to talk about Kenya. And there will be, what, 3/4 of you in the room who will resist it when I say that Kenya and Nairobi, in particular, have long been Africa's hub for technological ingenuity. UNDP, through its flagship Timbuktu 2 initiative, proudly co-hosting this 10th edition alongside AFRILABS. And I want to thank UNDP and ASG Visign for the leadership in bringing these processes to be here in Kenya. Innovation, of course, isn't an end in itself, but it is essential to achieving our shared goals. As you already heard, Kenya's medium-term plan, which takes us almost to the end of and to agenda 2030 global level, it envisages growth, job creation, industrialization, and the digital economy as key drivers. And for us in Kenya, a great degree of the work needed to try and support Kenya and Kenyans is anchored also in innovation. We just highlight very few examples of the kinds of things we're trying to help Kenyans get on the way. So UNESCO is leading our Digital joint program, which is all about supporting Kenyan entrepreneurs to incubate and launch homegrown Kenyan digital platforms. UNFPA, in a different sector, has helped to launch here in Kenya what we think is the world's first development impact bond in the area of adolescent sexual and reproductive health. It unites performance-based financing with the power of app-driven service and information delivery for 500,000 Kenyan adolescent girls. FAO, with support from the European Union, they've managed already to digitize a significant number of 47 counties land registries, and the remainder are to be completed in the next few years. Now imagine, once you have a land registry fully digitized in Kenya, what that does for transparency, for accountability, but also imagine the kinds of apps, functionality, service delivery that you can build on top of a platform like that. And then last but absolutely by no means least, through UNDP's leadership on Timbuktu 2 and the Green Tech Hub, launched in concept technology
UNDP is working with government, private partners with several startups driving renewable energy, climate mitigation, waste management, and related green technologies. UNDP is also helped establish the Africa Centre of Competence for Digital and AI Skills at Kenya School of Government, training public sector officials in the vital digital tools that they need as Kenya's digital explosion continues. So, all of our UN entities in Kenya, I hope, are helping Kenyans on that innovation journey. But I think I can risk saying, without controversy, that UNDP is leading in front of the pack. And so, it really is going to be a great pleasure in a few minutes to hear from ASG, Conrad. I've known her for more than 20 years, we should not say that. As a tireless for harnessing technology and demographic opportunities to drive inclusive growth. And it's a sincere thing to say that every time she opens her mouth, I learn something. So listen hard to what she has to say. And I'm equally thrilled with Your Excellency, Vice President Visign, to welcome you back to Kenya. Your Timbuktu is guiding your tireless work for Africa's youth, for innovation and leadership. And I'm really delighted to have the chance in just a few minutes to listen and learn from your wisdom. So as I close, friends, we just pick up, resonate with, illuminate on a couple of the striking comments from previous speakers. Zinazo, you said the world is changing, and you're right. It's tilting. It's tilting right now towards Africa. This is Africa's moment. And so you invited us, as did a previous panelist, with the question, what kind of Africa do you want to imagine? My closing plea to you in the face of that temporary altering of the global north, that temporary closing of migrants and spirits, my plea to you as a European is to say, what kind of Africa do you want to imagine? Don't stop there. What kind of earth do you want to imagine? African solutions to Africa's problems, sure. But African solutions are good for Africa's problems, because the world sorely needs Africa's youth, energy, spirit, and innovation today, and to shape our future. Thanks very much.
Another round of applause. Thank you so much, Mr. Jackson. And now, ladies and gentlemen, it gives me great pleasure to bring this august, I would like to say audience, to a great speaker. Now, he has served as a Vice President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria from 2015 to 2023, and as Attorney General and Commissioner of Justice in Lagos State from 1999 to 2007, playing key roles in the formulation and implementation of government initiatives and policies for economic and judicial reform, social investments, human capital development, digital and creative economy, climate change and climate action, and energy security. Now, beyond his tenure in office, he remains dedicated to climate action, as I said before, and innovation advocacy through various roles, including board chair of the Climate Action Platform for Africa, co-founder of the Innovation Initiative Future Perspectives, guardian of the UNDP-led Africa Innovation Foundation Timbuktu, board member of the Multi-Rating Foundation and Nigerian Conservation Foundation, and member of the African Leaders That Lead Initiative. Of course, ladies and gentlemen, as you may know, when AFRILABS turned 10, he hosted the annual gathering in that year. Ladies and gentlemen, I do believe that spiritually he's the youngest person in this room. Because no matter what, he shows up, he believes in us, and he believes in Africa. Please stand as we warmly welcome His Excellency Professor Yemi, Assistant to the Department to Africa Innovation Foundation, and of course, Senior Advocate of Nigeria.
Thank you very much. Everything you have said is true, including that I'm the youngest person here. Thank you very much. And the ELVP, especially Ms. Stewart, thank you for being such a gracious host. Lily, thank you. And ASG Ahuna, thank you very, very much for the kind invitation to be here. I must say that I'm extremely excited to be here at the 10th annual gathering of AFRILABS. And I still remember hosting AFRILABS back in 2021 in Abuja, where there were that was the 10th anniversary of the founding of AFRILABS, not the 10th anniversary of the gathering, which is this gathering. And I recall that there were a couple of hundred people, but the energy in the energy in the room, just the sheer force of all of those people. But today, when you look at it, it's almost like 1,000 times the energy, the buzz, creativity, and everything that's in here is almost 1,000 times what we saw in 2021. So congratulations on that. I must say it's a real privilege also to be in this room with over 600, told you closer to 700 brilliant innovators, creators, and partners from around the world. AFRILABS has been a very powerful ally of, it's been a very powerful ally of Timbuktu. And as we heard from Anne a few moments ago, they have walked this path with Timbuktu practically from the beginning. Timbuktu, as you know, is the African Innovation Fund, home to what may be the largest single fund supporting innovation ecosystems across Africa. So huge congratulations to the AFRILABS family for this milestone, and a special shout out to Anna Kennedy, the unstoppable force leading this amazing program. So I'm just going to reflect for a few minutes on the theme of the gathering, which is Africa's innovation future, policy partnerships and progress. Africa's innovation future, policy partnerships and progress. And some may ask, some of the innovators here may ask, well, what's my business with policy? I'm not the one who does that or makes policy. But I think it's very important that every innovator must also see themselves as policy advocates. And the simple reason is that you are the one who knows what is best in terms of policy you want to see, and the policy that will shape the future of your business, the policy that will shape the future of your innovation. So I think there is every reason why each and every one of us should be a policy advocate. As a matter of fact, in Nigeria, I recall when we were still thinking about how to accommodate the payment systems, very many payment systems that were showing, the fintechs that were showing. There was a group of young men, about 4 of them, who met with me and met with the Central Bank of Nigeria. Take a second look at the sort of licensing regimes that we have in order to be able to accommodate the fintechs, who at the time, of course, were taking the lunch off the table for many of the lives. So it was these young innovators who ended up being the policy advocates who saw to it that our policies changed and we were able to accommodate fintechs. It was Fred Swanica, the founder of the African Leadership Academy, who observed that by 2030, Africa will have the largest workforce, will have a larger workforce, he said, than China. And by 2050, Africa will have the largest in the world. 1 billion people will need to have work, will need jobs. And I will be sitting on a ticking time bomb, not just for Africa, but for the entire world, if we're not able to find jobs and opportunities for this number. Let me add that a worse disaster is if that workforce is not trained in the relevant skills. For the numbers that he spoke of tell a simple truth also, and it is that Africa's future depends on innovation. I heard Anne a moment ago. They say that the bridge between potential and prosperity is innovation. I thought that was so well said. But not just that. Increasingly, the future of global innovation will depend on Africa. And that simply is the truth. With the world's youngest and fastest growing population, Africa holds immense potential to leapfrog into new frontiers of technology, green growth, and digital transformation. And if we do, combined with the shared force of numbers, it will be the greatest technological revolution that the world has ever seen. So the choice before us is unmistakable. We can either allow this vast reservoir of energy and talent to dissipate into unemployment and instability, or we can channel it into innovation that drives innovative growth and creates millions of jobs and positions. So Africa as a force shaping the global economy is more or less stuff that we should take for granted. Although the question is not whether Africa can innovate. It is already innovating, and that's why we have here with us this huge number of innovators doing all sorts of amazing things. But the question is whether we will build the right environment for innovation to thrive, to scale, and to transform us. Innovation clearly requires fertile ground, and that ground is policy, good forward-looking policy. We heard a moment ago about Kenya's M-Pesa. It's become a global fintech revolution because the regulators allow global money to flourish rather than stifle it. I just spoke a moment ago about Nigeria's unicorns. 6 unicorns in 6 years, between 2 recessions, because the central bank liberalizes licensing policy, creating cheaper licenses to enable payment systems and payment processing companies to function. Rwanda's Center for Fourth Industrial Revolution has been benefiting from forward-looking digital policies. It's embedding already artificial intelligence, blockchain, and Internet of Things into its national tech strategy. And there are so many great examples. But no single country or company can unlock Africa's innovation future alone. Partnerships, local, regional, global, are the bridges that will connect ideas and impact. And this event, this AFRILABS annual gathering, convenes hundreds of innovators, policymakers, and investors here and online, and creating a continental platform for collaboration. And there are so many partnerships that are possible here. Partnerships are the arteries through which innovation circulates. And the results of these efforts are already visible. Africa's technological capabilities nearly doubled in the past decade alone, rising from 25% to 41%. Here in Kenya, Kenya's Silicon Savannah, as it's described, is valued already at over $7 billion and is projected to reach $18 billion by 2032. Rwanda's e-commerce sector is growing at 15% annually. while Nigeria adds one new mobile subscriber every second. Across the continent, 570 million Africans are now online, more than double the number in 2015. These are not isolated achievements. They are signals of the continent in motion. But I think that the true multiplier of Africa's innovation future is the Africa Continental Free Trade Area, the largest trade area involved by membership, encompassing 54 countries and a market of 1.4 billion people. The free trade area is not just about lowering tariffs, it's about unlocking innovation at scale. It creates a single continental market where startups can scale beyond borders. A fintech solution that is born in Lagos can seamlessly serve clients in Nairobi, in Accra, in Johannesburg, and in Kigali. With its protocol on digital trade, the free trade area lays the foundation for cross-border e-commerce, digital payments, and data flows. The free trade area's digital innovation challenge is already helping small and medium-sized enterprises leverage technology to overcome trade barriers, reduce costs, and access markets. Jumia, Africa's largest e-commerce platform, expanded from Nigeria into 14 African countries, increasing its potential customer base by 41%, thanks to reduced trade restrictions. The free trade area is the infrastructure of innovation, transforming fragmented national markets into a continental launchpad. The opportunities it unlocks are immense across sectors. Agriculture, which employs over 60% of Africa's workforce. The trade area can harmonize standards for seeds, fertilizers, and agri-inputs, enabling agri-tech startups to scale solutions across borders. Sugar Foods, an agri-company, which connects farmers directly to retailers through digital platforms, is a model that can expand regionally under the free trade area, reducing food waste and stabilizing prices. The UN Economic Commission for Africa projects that agribusiness will be worth $1 trillion by 2030, and the free trade area ensures African innovators can capture that value. In health, where the continent faces a shortage of 1.8 million health workers by 2030, the free trade area's digital trade protocols can enable telemedicine platforms to operate seamlessly across borders. Ghana's MPharm, which manages prescription drug supply chains and now operates in multiple countries, shows how regional integration can reduce regulatory fragmentation and allow health tech solutions to scale continentally. Cross-border health innovation is both vital for pandemic preparedness and critical healthcare delivery. In renewable energy, Africa holds 60% of the world's best solar resources, yet it accounts for only 1% of global solar capacity. But the free trade area can remove tariffs on solar panels, wind turbines, and batteries, lowering costs and accelerating adoption. Morocco's Noor Solar Complex, one of the largest in the world, demonstrates that potential. And with the free trade area, surplus power could actually be traded across borders through regional power pools. The AFDP estimates that achieving universal electricity access by 2040 will require $120 billion annually, and the free trade area agreements can attract that investment and integration that is needed to meet the challenge. But to truly reap the benefits of this technological watershed, Africa must take deliberate steps. And I think the excellent plan, developed by Ambassador Labina Ramkison, who is AU Ambassador for AI and digital technology, lays out some of the crucial imperatives, namely that we must reduce the cost of internet and mobile data, because affordable access is really the gateway to the digital economy. A 50% reduction in data costs would increase GDP by as much as 2%. And this must be matched by building out broadband infrastructure to reach rural and underserved areas. We must also expand energy accessibility, investing in solar, wind, and nuclear energy to reduce energy poverty, fuel industries, and create up to 15 million jobs by 2035. We must lower the cost of internet by accelerating local education in science and technology, while also attracting international talent to drive innovation. We must ensure data reliability and transparency, building infrastructures that provide trustworthy information to local and international investors alike. We must coordinate regulations across the continent, simplifying frameworks so that businesses can scale more easily. And we should consider creating a resource or technological index focused on energy, agriculture, natural resources, and technology. And this would be a progressive first step towards a fully fledged continental stock exchange. This, of course, is a lower risk approach and can build awareness, foster market infrastructure, and establish the credibility needed for deeper financial integration. Africa is not merely catching up, it is leapfrogging. Where others built some point landmines, Africa went straight to mobile telephony. Where others are burdened by legacy banking, Africa pioneered mobile money. Where others debate the ethics of artificial intelligence, Africa is embedding inclusivity and responsibility from the start. And now with the AFCFT and deliberate action on connectivity, on energy, education, data, and regulation, Africa is building the world's largest innovation marketplace. A place where ideas travel as freely as goods, and where diversity becomes a competitive advantage. So I think we ought to act with urgency. We have to invest, courage, and collaborate with vision. Let's build Africa where a young coder in Lagos, a farmer in Addis, and a solar engineer in Marrakesh are not isolated dreamers, but connected pioneers in a continental ecosystem. Because when Africa innovates, the world progresses. And when the world looks for the future of innovation, it is found it right here in Africa. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Your Excellency. A round of applause, please. Have we been challenged? Have we been inspired? A round of applause. I think the words that he spoke to us so deeply and so true that it embodies the very purpose of why we're here today. And to continue along that theme, we're going to share a video on TikTok 2. I'll ask the technical team to take it away.
Impact government's built for real hands-on support. From ideation to expansion, these hubs champion startups every step of the way. Fintech, agri-tech, mindtech, health-tech, health-tech, tourism tech, smart cities, agri-tech, trade logistics, e-commerce, and creative tech. Each hub powers African solutions, drives African growth, unlocks African scale, delivering real value and real impact. Because success shouldn't be exception, it must be the expectation. Let's ignite the startup revolution from here to Africa's vibrant future. Are you in? Join us.
Are you in? Are you in? I don't hear you. Are you in? Absolutely, absolutely. I'll take this time just to acknowledge the presence of His Excellency Dr. Irungu Kambata, the Governor of Muranga County. Also take this opportunity to acknowledge the presence of Honorable Susan Mangeni, Principal Secretary, State Department for MSMEs Development. Now I know that you have seen me on this and in a few other stages as an MC and a moderator, but I have to tell you that I'm a poet. If you haven't heard it, let me show off my skills a little bit. Good. A typical team dim the lights. Could I also get a soft drum roll, please? Technical team, I need to impress them. Our lights have been dimmed, I need my soft drum roll.